This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
So before we get into today's episode, I want to remind you guys, this is part 2 of 2. So if you guys have not listened to part 1, which was from last week, go back and listen to that one with Jim. It was an awesome episode. And we kind of just, we talked for a long time because we were having such a great time. So we broke it up into 2 episodes so you can listen to the rest of that one, obviously today. But if you haven't listened to episode 1, go listen to that one and then come back and listen to this one. It's going to be a great time, but enjoy today's episode.
You got to think you got to stop seeing yourself as a commodity. Start thinking of yourself as a unique service, what that might look like. Number 2, got to get tuition off the website, for philosophical reasons, financial reasons, marketing reasons. Third thing, I think third common mistake I see is something that I would call Me Too branding. And I'll be honest, as a leader early in my career, I was really guilty of this. Me Too branding is basically when we copy what our competitors are doing in an effort to try to remain competitive. And so, I would look at the school down the street and I'd be like, oh, they're giving everybody an iPad, me too. And I try to go buy an iPad for everybody, right? Oh, they're teaching Latin in middle school. Oh, yeah, me too, right? Oh, they're starting a lacrosse team. Oh, me too, right? And again, this is a large 2,000 student public school. I'm this small Christian school. I'm struggling to compete. I don't have the resources and the staff and even just the number of students to do some of the things they're doing. And yet I'm copying them because I think if I don't, my families are going to leave and go elsewhere and I'm never going to get those families. And the problem is it's just largely flawed because I can't compete. I think we've already established that you can't compete as a commodity, and Me Too branding is basically trying to compete as a commodity. And so what I learned is I learned an alternative strategy, what marketers sometimes call flanking. Flanking is when we create programs that are unique and different and hard for our competitors to copy. The key here is though, it has to be a difference that's truly different, and it has to be a difference that parents care about. Because sometimes I talk to schools and they tell me about their fun little pet projects that they have and their programs they have that they're like, oh, it's so amazing, it's so special. But the problem is, it's parents enjoy it, parents appreciate it, but they don't care enough about it that it impacts their satisfaction levels or their enrollment decisions. So sometimes sports programs, a really great music program, a lot of times those are really great things schools do, but their parents don't care largely enough about them to really impact enrollment. So so I'll give you just kind of an example of what that looked like in our school is in Florida, we have what we call dual enrollment. And so if you're a high school junior, if you want to, you can dual enroll through your local high school at a local community college, and you can take college classes and you can earn your 2-year Associates of Arts degree concurrently while also finishing your last 2 years of high school, right? So you end up graduating high school with a high school diploma and potentially a 2-year college degree, and if not a 2-year college degree, a whole bunch of college credits, and it's free. And so you can imagine families in my Christian school after 10th grade are hey, my kid's got a great foundation. They've had a great Christian education, but now they can get a 2-year head start on college and it's free. And that just sounds great. And so, I'm in this tough position. I can't really copy this because who's going to pay me tuition to send their kid to a college that's free when they can just do it for free through the public school? So I'm in this, tough position. Is how do I hold on to my 11th and 12th graders? Because this is really important. We've invested in these kids for all these years. We want them to stay as juniors and seniors and turn and sort of give back to our school and help shape our culture. But a lot of them are leaving. And so the way that we figured out how to resolve this was, rather than trying to sort of me too, like copy it and figure out how we can do that also, is like, okay, let's flank. How can we do this in a way that's different and unique? And so what we did is we reached out to a Christian university in Florida and we said, hey, what would it look like for you to credential our faculty to teach some of your college courses on our high school campus? And they said, yeah, we can make that work. And so what we were able to do is create a dual credit program where our students earned college credit on a high school campus. So they were able to stay as juniors and seniors on our campus with our Christian faculty and complete college courses from a Christian university. So our Christian values and distinctives are still embedded even in these college courses. And we were able to offer this to our families for free. And so we were the only, and to this day are still the only high school in our community where you can earn college credits on a high school campus. And so you can imagine, like, if you're a parent, you might be a little reluctant to send your 16-year-old daughter, to a 10,000 person junior college just to get some free college credits. Well, now you have this safe alternative. Hey, my child can stay in a Christian school, be with Christian teachers, still have a high school experience and do all the high school things that come along with it, but we get the benefit of earning those college credits as well. The other distinctive is, like, a lot of schools do AP courses, but AP courses are kind of like a high stakes test. Like, AP is great if you pass the test, but if you don't pass the test, you just spent a whole year taking college level work and you have no college credit to show for it. Whereas with the dual credit program, pass the course, get the credit, no high stakes test, at the end of the semester. So that's kind of a large example of what it looks like to kind of flank, right? How do we create a program that's different and meaningful? And so that really helped us shore up our attrition from 10th grade into 11th and 12th grade. So more of our juniors and seniors stayed as we had larger graduating classes, larger enrollment, all the benefits that come with that.
That's so creative. And I love it. You guys, like, you sat down and you were like, how can we solve this problem? And I think that's what, if schools could just put that hat on of, like, we're problem solvers, how can we solve a problem for our families that are a part of the school? Like, what are they actually looking for? I'm sure part of that comes into doing surveys regularly and making sure, like, they're, hey, what are you looking for? What do you need? Because if you're not helping them, then they're probably going to leave and go somewhere else. So I know you've talked to hundreds of schools, a lot of startups and a lot of smaller ones. So maybe there's a lot of schools listening right now that are a startup or have 10, 20, 30 students, and maybe they're even trying to flank against some of the 300, 400 person Christian schools in their area. What are some of maybe the flanking ideas that you've seen done well by some of the really small schools that they could kind of put that hat on of, like, oh, we could try that. We could do that type of flanking in our area?
Yeah, that's a great question. I read a book, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, a little skinny business book called How to Get Your Competition Fired Without Saying Anything Bad About Them. And the whole premise of the book is this: figure out what your competition doesn't do well, and then do it really, really well yourself. And so, my advice to, like, smaller Christian schools who are like, what does it look like to flank against these larger competitors that out-resource us and, just seem to have, like, such a competitive advantage? Figure out what they don't do well and then do it well yourself. When I started on this journey, our school was a school of 140 and we had very limited resources and we're struggling just to, like, pay the bills. Over the course of 10 years, we built our school into a school of 610 students with 250 families on the wait list. And we didn't do it because one day we just had all the answers to all the challenges, right? It was like a series of just small nudges along this 10-year journey. But when we started, it was this idea, like, okay, what can we do well that other schools don't do well? And so for us, it was like communication. Like, we know schools don't communicate well. Parent relationships, we know most people are frustrated because they have no relationship with the teacher. They don't know their child's teacher. They never have a conversation with, like, the principal, the administrator, right? So how do we really do relationship well? Community. Most, especially, again, most public schools, there's no sense of community. Like, you don't feel like you're a part of something. So how do we build community and help people feel like they belong to something? Because, like, one of my sort of core ideas and philosophies, kind of like my hypothesis, was people will leave a school, but they'll stay in community, right? So in those moments when, like, we inevitably disappoint somebody, if it's just a school, people are like, I'm disappointed and I leave. But if they feel like I'm a part of a community, then they usually are willing to work through those disappointments and they stay. And that helped us to build retention and improve retention over years. So, what are the things, character formation, leadership, communication, are there unique programs that you can offer that would be meaningful to your community? So it's really thinking about just, again, what are the reasons that people are dissatisfied with their current school setting, and how can you do those well? Because that is a way to start to attract families and grow your school without having to like reinvent some, big major program that might require more resources than you have available.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple of years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. I know one of the ones that comes up regularly then is the, sports. If a small school's like, man, we can't compete, we don't have a football team, even a basketball team, or we don't have prom, we don't have all these other things. Because I did all my growing up in Alaska and was homeschooled my whole life, and so I always wanted to play football. And so, but however it worked in the state of Alaska, and I'd love you to speak into this if you know from maybe some other states, I was able to play for the public school football team being homeschooled in the area, because I was homeschooled through an organization that was a part of the county borough area that it was. And so it was cool. I got to be homeschooled, but I drove myself to football practice and played for the local public school team, and could technically go to their homecoming and go to their prom because I was homeschooled in the area. Do you know have you heard of, can Christian schools kind of reach out to public schools and partner in a way? Is there legalities involved to go, hey, can our Christian school kids play for your public school football team, or you go to your prom? Is there things like that out there, or is that not common?
Yeah, so those are state by state decisions, because each state has its own athletic association that kind of sets those rules. In Florida, there is a provision that if you attend a private school that does not offer the sport that you want to play, you can play for your local public school. So, like for example, our school doesn't offer football, never has, probably never will. And so if we have kids that want to play football, they can play football for the school that they're zoned for. And so, we just are able to work with them, make sure they can get out of school in time to get the practices and things like that. So that kind of, for us, that kind of has allowed us to focus on the sports that we feel like we can year in and year out reasonably field teams for, and not feel pressure to try to start teams that, some kids want to play football this year, but then maybe next year we don't have enough kids for football, and it's like you have it, you don't have it. Again, my philosophy was always like, we can't do everything, but what we do, we're going to do with excellence. So we weren't going to throw something together just because there were maybe just enough kids to do it this year. If we couldn't build a program that was sustainable, then we just weren't going to start it. Right? We were going to create other opportunities for kids to do those things. So, but through the years, like we got creative. We partnered with other Christian schools and formed Christian school leagues, to create competition at a level that was good for our school. We started an elementary sports program. So from kindergarten and up, kids can play sports on school teams, and and some different things like that. So, but I think it's also important to remember that as much as like sports dominates the conversation, sports only impacts, I don't know, 10, 20% of your families at most. So I think schools have to be careful that they don't allow like decisions around athletics to really drive decision making, thinking that like, oh, if we just build a gymnasium, or if we just had more sports, like we'd grow, our school would be so much bigger and more families would stay, because that's often not the case either. I mean, our school today has an exemplary athletic program and has a highly competitive basketball program, one of the premier programs probably in our state. And yet even people who love basketball still are like, man, this isn't what I want. And they go to some other school to play because we're too good or we're not good enough. And so it's a hard area to sort of satisfy everybody. And so I think we have to just be mindful that any of those programs, arts, extracurriculars, athletics, none of them are the sort of the magic pill. And this becomes really apparent when we survey families, and you realize like, oh, like it doesn't move the needle on parent satisfaction nearly as much as we think it does.
So for those schools that are listening, what do you recommend them leading with on their website? So I know a lot of them, there's a lot of things they shouldn't do. And I think some of them are like, oh, immediately starting with, we've been in operation since 1955. I was started by Mr. Smith, and something like that's not how you lead with it. Or maybe they lead with, we are state champ. It's 4-year running in lacrosse or something. Like obviously there's things you should not lead with, but I know they're really proud, of course, of some of the things they have in their school. But what do you recommend schools leading with on their website that the people are going to be seeing first and foremost when they go to their website to kind of see if this is going to be a good fit for their family or not?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that every Christian school needs to answer on their website is this: what does success look like? Right? What does success look like? What's our vision? Right? What are we working towards? Maybe is a better way of saying it, right? We need to lead with our vision, and our vision should really be a description of what we're working towards. So as a parent, I don't really care like what your features are. I don't care what your curriculum is. I don't care what kind of pedagogy you use. I don't care about, your different programs that you offer. What I want to know is like, if I spend the money and I send my kid to your school, what are they going to look like when they graduate? Like, what are they going to look like when they leave your 5th grade or your 8th grade or your 12th grade? Right? That's what families want to know. I love the way my colleague Jay Tickle describes it. He says families are not looking for they're not looking for questions to answer. They're not looking for answers to questions. They're looking for solutions to problems. Um, and I think what we largely do is we give people a lot of answers to questions that they're not asking, and we fail to offer them solutions to problems that they're looking for a solution to. So a family comes to your website like they have a deep need, they have a felt need, like they're dissatisfied with the current setting, or their kids entering kindergarten and they have these certain hopes and dreams, and they're looking to see like, is your school able to provide what they want most for their child's education? And largely our websites don't answer that. Instead, it says like, we're one of the best classical schools in our area. Like we've got championship sports, we've got great teachers, we've got small class sizes. None of those things inherently tell me as a parent, like why the investment would matter. And so this kind of gets in this idea of like, we have to stop talking about features and move into this idea of like, how do we describe the benefits of our school? Like I'm working with a classical school right now. They're so proud of their classical, like their Christian classical pedagogy. I'm like, it's like, that's great. But most families don't know what a classical education is. So what you really need to be telling them is like, what are the benefits of a classical education? Like if you go through our classical education program, what does your kid look like? Well, they're going to be able to do this thing and that thing and have this skill and that skill. They're going to be wise, they're going to be well educated, they're going to be articulate, they're going to be excellent communicators, they're going to be logical thinkers, right? They're going to be able to reason and all these different things. That's the story we should be telling on our website, right? Hey, our vision is to produce students that do X, Y, and Z, right? And graduates who leave our school, have these characteristics and these skill sets and these attributes, right? This graduate profile. That's what we should be telling families. And then once they're like, oh, that's what I want, how do you do it? Then we get into like the programming and sort of the missional aspect of how we deliver those outcomes. But we should lead with our outcomes, not with like our features and our services and our, how we do what we do. We often, to put it in sort of in story brand language, most of the time the school tells a story where the school is the hero of the story. And ultimately we want to tell a story where the student and the family is the hero and the school positions itself as the trusted guide.
Love it, man. So all solid, all good. Before I ask you a final question for today, I do want to do this real quick. You've been doing this obviously a long time. You've been talking to schools and you've heard some really cool probably marketing campaigns, marketing ideas that a school has done that's maybe a little bit out of the box for fun. Maybe hit like on 3 or 5 or something that you've heard of like, man, there's a really cool idea this school did and it did it, or maybe the rock school when you were there, something just out of the box that really stood out that maybe a school could be thinking of going, I never thought about doing that before, to try and get the word out about their school. Any come to mind?
Yeah, I've seen some really neat campaigns over the years. I think my favorite that I often point to is Valley Christian School in San Jose, California. Kim Ellefson is their marketing director, and they have a really well thought out campaign that's called "I Am a Warrior." And so they had these really cool ads where it's like you just see pictures of kids in different activities, and it's like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mathematician, I'm an author, like I'm a missionary, I'm a poet, I'm a musician. I am a warrior, because that's their mascot. And I love it because, again, it's like, who's the hero of the story? It's the student. Like, you're learning things about their school, but through the lens of this. Like, most schools would say, we have a music program, we have a STEM program, we have an athletic program, we have a Bible program. But what they're doing is they're saying they do those same things, but they're doing it through this lens of like, the student experiences these things, it becomes these things. Like, it's not, we have a literature program, it's, I am an author. It's not, we have a music program, it's, I'm a musician. And so I really love that campaign. It's super simple, but it's really compelling. And as a parent, it's easy to look at that or hear that and go like, oh, I could see my kid being that or that or that, right? I need to take the next step and learn more about the school. So that one is one that I really like. Recently, I saw a friend of mine in Cleveland, Ohio. They just rolled out a campaign that I thought was pretty clever, kind of tying into like the homeschool connection. So their tagline is kind of talking about parents, and they have these cool photos of like a mom with like her kids around there, and they're all dressed up, but it's kind of like fun and casual like portraiture. And it says you give them heart, we give them wings. Or you gave them heart and we give them wings, or something like that. But the idea is like, as a family, like you kind of like created who they are, and like we're going to help launch them into the world with wings or whatever. So I thought that was a really clever one. And then one that we did at our school that I really like, probably my favorite campaign that we did it in my years of doing this at our school, was our theme was we had a whole campaign that was Our Teachers Make the Difference. And so we had some creative that we had done where you kind of hear the teacher talking, like you kind of, the visual is like over the shoulder of the teacher. So you never see the identity of the teacher. You kind of see the kid's reaction, but you hear the teacher like, hi, my name is Joy, and I teach at the Rock School. And then they kind of talk about like their perspective as a teacher. And then you hear like, hi, my name is Hope. And it talks about sort of like giving hope. And then my name is Faith, and you kind of talks about this faith. And so we did like this, like the name tag, hello, my name is, kind of name tags kind of thing, but it's like, it's, faith, hope, and joy, find them at the Rock School. And so it was this idea that, that at our school, you don't just get Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, but like you have faith, hope, and joy. Those are the kind of people that are speaking into your child's life, right? And that it's not just another teacher. It's like our teachers are different and a big part of our distinctive for who we are as a Christian school. So, so I always thought that one was super cool. Was really, really proud of that campaign that year. So anyway, so those are a couple that come to mind that I thought are really clever, in a creative way of conveying a message.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. Those are awesome. Those are good. All right, so if a school's listening, which obviously they are, later on they will be listening, is if they're startup schools, smaller schools, and they keep saying, I don't have a budget to do an ad campaign. I don't have a budget to do a big a video push. I don't have a budget for this. What are some of the things that you would suggest to them if they have either like no budget or very, very small budget to do to kind of for enrollment season right now to get the word out about their school that is going to be the best bang for their buck?
Yeah. So back when we were at this tiny school of 140, we were spending, I remember one year we spent, this is in 2006, 2007, we spent $25,000 on an advertising budget and didn't grow at all. And it's we kind of had kind of a spray and pray mentality. Like we just threw a bunch of money. Like everybody who came in said, "Hey, do you want to buy this?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." And we really had no results to show for it. You know, within a few years, like we were spending like $2,500 a year and we were seeing massive results. So I think the first thing to understand is like, spending more money doesn't mean better results. And especially in today's digital age, you can get really good results with very little ad spend. You know, the ability to do things like targeted Facebook ads and things like that, it allow you to put your message in front of the right people at a pretty low cost and generate usually a pretty good return on investment. And there's ways to measure it. You know, back then we were like, oh, I don't know if it works or not, but at least, you know, today we can kind of see are these kind of ad campaigns working? So those are ways to kind of take a small entry into the kind of digital marketing space without a huge financial investment. But largely, like what we did as a school to grow was I put together a marketing task force. I got a group of parent volunteers, and we met once a month, and we said, "Hey, these are the things that we want to do this month, and who can do what." And then we'd get together a month later, and like, "How did it go? Great. What are the next things that we need to do?" And that group was able to kind of help me do a lot of marketing at no cost because I didn't have a marketing director and admissions director. Like it was me and my principal, and that was it. And so we were sort of managing all of this. And so we needed volunteers to help with like an open house, or like we did some informal kind of walk-in days and these different things. And so we used volunteers, and I didn't look for volunteers that had marketing backgrounds. In fact, I didn't really want people with marketing backgrounds because I didn't want them bringing all their bad ideas to the table. You know, we're not Coca-Cola, we're not Starbucks. You can't market our school the way you market in the corporate world. And so I don't need corporate advice. And so I just needed worker bees. I just needed people who could like show up and get stuff done. And it helped if they had, you know, like maybe some design skills and could make graphics or make flyers or some things like that. So you know, utilizing volunteers in the absence of paid staff, I think is key. But then again, I think the two ways the number one way you grow your school is word of mouth, and word of mouth doesn't cost anything, but there's things that you can do to kind of get word of mouth going in your school, and that's a conversation for another podcast. And then number two is digital marketing, and again, like you can hire companies to do this, and it doesn't have to be a huge monthly ad spend, but it will generate leads, right? Because I think one of the mistakes, again, getting into another mistake, but schools tend to think about brand awareness. And what they need to be thinking about is lead generation, right? Brand awareness is like, let's get our name out there. You don't need everybody in the community to know about you. You just need people who are looking for a school at the right moment to know who you are. You know, brand awareness is what Coca-Cola does and Starbucks and Ford Motor Company, because they have multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. Your little Christian school just needs to generate leads. And the best way to do that is with it's like digital ads where you can target the right people with the right message at the right time. And that can be done on a pretty small budget.
Perfect. Love it. Well, you mentioned word of mouth. I know we could obviously dive into that rabbit hole. I don't know if you want to open it up and make it a little bit longer for today, or if we do it for another day. What do you think?
I'll say this: the mechanics how to do this we'll have to say for another conversation or whatever. But if we all agree that like word of mouth is the best way to grow our school, then we need to figure out like how can we do it better. And one of the ways to do that is by finding out who are the promoters, the raving fans, who are those people who love your school, because we know that they naturally want to tell other people about our school. So having a gathering of those people and kind of doing some things to give them information, give them materials, and energize them to go out and like really actively promote your school is a way to move from just like one person trying to recruit all these new families you need to kind of an army of like motivated salespeople who are out there just naturally telling other people about your school because they think you're so amazing.
Perfect. I think that's well equipped. At least wet their whistle a little bit.
Yeah.
So I always like to end with the same question before we wrap up. And I know all of this has been advice and really, really good advice. So thank you for that. But if you were to share just one more piece of advice, whether it's marketing or even not marketing, maybe just from your years of being a school leader, school teacher, and educator, but what would be a piece of advice that you would share with the other school leaders listening?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks. I I think sometimes when people come to my trainings and they meet me or they hear me talk or they hear my story, they think, "Wow, man, like you must love marketing. You must really be passionate about marketing. You must love marketing. Do you have a business background?" And the truth is, like, no. I like my degrees are in education. I don't have a business background, and the truth is, like, I don't love marketing. I love Christian education. I love my Christian school. And I was at a point where if I didn't figure out how to do marketing, there was a really good chance that my Christian school was going to close its doors. Um, and so much of what I learned out of necessity because it was what was required to keep my school going, right? And today I have this, it's the school is this big, beautiful, flourishing school because of the work that we were able to do kind of in marketing and enrollment to grow it over time. Um, and so for school leaders that are out there, like, I'm just like, this is not my wheelhouse. Like, I don't love it. Like, this is not what I went into. Like, I get it, and so my advice to you is let your love and your passion for your school give you the motivation that you need to just take the next step. And I shared a bunch of information on this podcast. And when I spend 2.5 days really teaching all this stuff, I have to remind people I didn't learn all this like in the first 30 days that I started exploring marketing, right? Like what I shared, it was a 10-year learning journey. And so as a school leader, just like, what's the next step that you can take, right? Like, let your motivation to grow your school because you care about the movement of Christian education. Let that motivate you to figure out like what's the next step that I can take, and like let me do that and see how that goes. And then let me take the next step. And then let me take the next step. And don't feel like you have to solve all the problems today. Just one step at a time. Keep moving forward in your marketing journey. And one day you'll wake up and it'll be 10 years later and you'll be like, wow, look at what I've done.
That's perfect. All right. Well, Jim, if people want to get in touch with you, is there a way they can just find you online or connect with you?
Yeah, you can visit my website. It's jcmckenzie.com. You can find, I've written books. I do some coaching. You can learn about some of the different things I'm involved in to support Christian education. If you're curious, jcmckenzie.com.
Awesome. Jim, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hop on here. I know we could have talked for probably at least 2 or 3 hours easy about school marketing. So we'll have to come back for maybe a second episode or another episode sometime because I enjoyed it. So thank you for all your years of pouring into your school as well as all these schools with the Herzog Foundation and more. I love what you're doing and big fan of yours. So thank you for your time
Appreciate
today.
it. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you again to Jim McKenzie for taking time and being on the podcast today. I could talk to this guy for hours. I'm always learning from him and just enjoying the fellowship and the time with him and what his expertise is. And I'm hoping that was the same for you guys as well. And you were able to learn and have a lot of fun on today's episode. Because like I say, I want you guys to take at least one thing that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. And you should have got at least one from today and then as well as last week's episode as well. But before you guys go, 3 quick things actually that are free that I want to make sure you guys are tuning into. Of course, this first one is the podcast that you're listening to. Episodes are dropping every Monday morning, so make sure you are subscribed and tuning in so you can get all the different releases that we come out with. We've recorded a lot of really good content that's coming out here in the next couple months. I would like to say that all the content's really good, but I don't know, these next couple months, I have some really cool people we've interviewed that are going to be coming out. So make sure you tune in for those episodes that are about to be released every week. And obviously that's free. The next one is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner, there's a button called School Success Report. You just click that one. You can be added into getting our weekly email newsletter we send out. That is different articles our team has put together, different teacher shout outs. We just want to make sure you're there where you can read that once a week, get some different helpful tips to be a better school leader. Please make sure you're getting that in your inbox. And then last but not least is our private Facebook community called School Success Makers. I'm personally in there. I would love to see you in there as well on Facebook, where you can get to know the teachers in the area, ask questions, comment, add value, and just have community, because community is so incredibly important. And you can get that on the School Success Makers Facebook community. And again, completely free. All right, y'all. Well, you guys are awesome, as always. And we'll be back here next week with another awesome guest, as usual, on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.